Hello everyone. We'll begin our webinar in a couple more minutes. A very warm welcome to all the attendees. My name is Rashika and I'll be the moderator during this webinar. The topic of today's webinar is Collection and Risk Analytics for Banks and NBFCs. Presenters of today's webinar are Mr. Rajiv Maskara, Regional Head at Click, Mr. Rishikesh Deshmukh, Senior Principal Consultant at Exponentia, and Mr. Vivek Gadwai, Director and Head of Sales at Exponentia.
Hello
Before we
everyone.
begin the session, I'd like to share a couple of instructions. All the participants will be kept on mute during the webinar. However, we would like to keep it interactive. For this, we'll have poll questions in short intervals between the webinar, where a question will be displayed on the screen for 30 to 40 seconds. Kindly submit your response within the stipulated time. We will also have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. You may raise your question anytime during the webinar in the chat box, and our presenters will answer them at the end. Since we all are working remotely, there can be some technical difficulties that we may face. So kindly bear with us in times of such occurrences. With this, I'd like to invite Vivek to begin the webinar.
Thank you so much, Rashika, for handing it over to me. And hello everyone. It is so wonderful to see you all here together. Well, what I can see is most of our audience is from the NBFC space, NBFC lending space, that too, right? Perfect audience for the kind of content that we are going to showcase here today. Well, today what you will take home is an understanding of the pains and challenges the NBFC industry in India is going through. The one which is topping the chart is obviously collections and risk, and I'm sure it is in everybody else's mind. So these are the top priority areas for any NBFC company, and it is imperative for the business stakeholders like to take it head on to avoid any credit losses which will lead to NPAs. Now, but how will this how will NBFC circumvent these challenges is a question. What tools can they use to which can nudge them as an early warning system? We need this active augmented intelligence we can build as a weapon to counter these challenges. Here, data comes as an elixir, for NBFCs to take on these challenges head on. Today, we will show you how we are leveraging the fuel called data, which powers up leading BI platforms like Click to provide this active intelligence. We will share a few names of the NBFCs who have adopted these tech platforms and have reaped benefits by enabling themselves on this data-driven decision-making journey. If you're planning to take this similar journey in near future for your organization, and we will be happy to introduce you to them, which will help you understand their learnings and their roadmaps. So in next 60 minutes, we will show you how we are helping leading NBFCs across world to monitor key KPIs around collections, risk, and also through AI, improve field force collection effectiveness and efficiency. We will be showcasing few demos today, and today which leading NBFCs have adopted to mitigate the credit risk and improve collection efficiency. So that is in next 60 minutes you will see that. I hope you all will take back with you the roadmap as a leader. You will implement at your respective organization whatever use cases we show you. So today's agenda, as you can see in front of you, I'm just going to talk about us, about Exponentia, and what value we have been delivering for other NBFCs. Rishikesh here is going to talk about why collection and risk is the top priority for the NBFCs today, and what's the approach today's era NBFC are taking to mitigate these risks, and then how Click has become a platform of choice for this leading not just NBFC but all the financial services across India, and what are the features of this Click platform, what kind of use cases you can drive on this Click platform. We will all see that, and which are the popular use cases that you can drive on this Click platform. We will showcase that. Basically, these use cases you can put it on your copy and maybe have it in your roadmap, which you can go back and implement for your organization. And some of these use cases, popular use cases, we will show that to you in action. We will give you a demo of that, and that will be followed by a Q&A session, and we will take all of your questions after that. just to talk about, so please stay tuned, for the next 60 minutes, which are, packed with all the insights and action. So before we embark on that journey, a quick introduction on who we are, what we do, how has been our journey, and how we have become a go-to partner for the leading NBFCs in India. Well, to start with, Exponentia.ai, we are an AI tech company. We got established almost 7 years ago with a vision to democratize the data for all the business users, helping them take decisions based on the available data in their organization. To do this as a solution provider, a very strong technology platform was required to partner with. And we started evaluating multiple platforms, and our search stopped at Qlik. And Qlik became our first OEM partner like almost 7 years ago when we got established. So we implemented Qlik as a data visualization platform for many of our customers, and they are reaping the benefits of it today. So as a database decision enablers, we could not tie up ourselves till data visualization derived insights. So this was just a tip of an iceberg. We wanted to enable our customers on more challenging use cases. This demanded, onboarding of more data sources containing not just structured data, but also unstructured, semi-structured data. So there are some use cases which demand, real-time data ingestions. Our data engineering practice evolved with this when we became partners with platforms like AWS, then Microsoft for Azure platform, then Cloudera and Databricks for engineering data pipelines. So today we help large and medium organizations in their vision of data unification. So by implementing these data warehouses and data lakes. Now data lakes now also the concept of data lakes is now evolving into a lake houses through this platform. So we will show that as well, what Lakehouse is all about. So with so much of unified data at one place, the ML driven data science use cases became next milestone in our evolution process. Our data scientists implement, ML based customer centric use cases which impact and improves your revenue. So use cases like it could be real-time lead scoring, helping in real-time application processing from logins through sanctions through disbursements, which positively impacts your revenue. Then use cases like recommendation on cross-selling and upselling. Use cases like are we allocating the right leads to the right sales agent? So our ML machine learning based algorithms, so they analyze the historical data and recommend which lead should be allocated to which sales agent to ensure the high probability of win. So these are some of the use cases that we have implemented already. So on the risk side, the use cases like delinquency predictions, which is very important, and fraud. So these are like must to have use cases for any NBFCs, and they should implement. So overall, this is how we staged up our data engineering practice of ours with data science practice and data visualization practice, and we have become like a one-stop solution provider for our customers for their end-to-end data-driven decision-making journey. So during our journey, we created some solutions, some accelerators, which have now become a product. So on your right, you see this Engagely.ai platform, which is an omni-channel chatbot platform. So this has a text bot, this has a voice bot, this has an email bot. So we are partnered with organizations like Facebook to implement the WhatsApp bots. Okay, so through WhatsApp bots, we have tier 1 financial organization, we have implemented it. So we have onboarded use cases like customer acquisition and onboarding. We have implemented use cases on customer servicing through this Engagely.ai platform. The another one is the OneTap platform, which is a sales enablement platform. So it helps the sales team to track the leads, the right leads, and it also nudges the sales team. So which set of leads they should be pursuing. So and hence enabling the sales team to achieve their targets better. Then we have this intelligent nudges, which is a part of OneTap. So this is an ML and rule based engine. So it sends you the alerts basis whatever breach of KPIs that you have. And in the end, we have this customer intelligence platform, so which takes care of all the customer data together and which helps in customer communication and contact strategy. It also helps you on the recommendation of the products that you can do with your customer, and also it also helps you on the customer servicing side as well. So this is the gamut of services and products that we are having. So today, after 7 years, we are almost like 250 people a strong organization, and we have a plans to go to 350 people in next 1 year. Currently, we have offices across India. So we have customer presence in Mumbai, Bangalore, Chennai, and Delhi. And outside India, we have offices in Singapore and UK. So the backbone of this backbone has to be a strong. The backbone has to be very strong to support this growth, and hence we strive to become a process-driven organization rather than people-driven organization. So we follow processes, and hence we have got ourselves certified on ISO, and we are also practicing the CMMI level 3 organization. So on this particular slide, so these are snapshots of some of the enterprises that trust us. So as you can see, we are very heavy on the financial services side, which you all are from, and we are working with leading banks like Kotak Mahindra Bank. We are working with NBO, which is the National Bank of Oman, which is one of the leading banks in Middle East, AGD, IDFC First Bank, Suryoday Bank. On the insurance side, we are working with the top insurance players of this country, SGFC Life, SBI Life, ICICI Pru. We are helping them on their end-to-end data strategy, building them the entire data pipeline for them, building the data warehouse, data lakes for them, and also modernizing their BI platforms on ClickSense. On the areas which are similar to yours, we are working with the leading NBFCs like SDFC Limited in the housing finance side. We are working with Poonawalla Fincorp. So we are helping them on their entire end-to-end data strategy, on the building their entire data pipelines, building data lakes, and also implementing modern BI platforms like Click, enabling their users on the collection side, risk side, sales side, management dashboards, and so on. So this was in short our portfolio. Now I will just hand it over to Rishikesh. So Rishikesh would be taking you, why the collection and risk is on the top of the mind and the top priority of the leading NBFC, and why this mitigation of the collection and risk related use cases should be on the top of your mind, and why you should be implementing it. Over to you, Rishi.
Thanks, Vivek. Thanks a lot for setting up the context, and welcome everyone in this very interesting webinar that we are conducting. So I'll be talking in this particular section why collection and risk has become a top priority for leading NBFCs and banks, not just in India but across the globe. So this is one number that we would want to talk about. So 1.8 trillion is the estimated credit losses that are estimated by S&P Global, the leading rating agency, in year 2020 and 2021. Now these are the losses accentuated by the impact of COVID and the pandemic that we see. However, this also exposes some of the structural lacunas that lie within NBFCs and banks to sort of augment the collections that they would want to have, or mitigate the risks that are present tacitly within the organization. Right now we see here most of the risk here in the graph represented is attributed to China, but Asia Pacific and other regions are also very, very close by, and we can see those risks also increase year on year or forecast by forecast. Now this is just one number that we are highlighting here, but there are numerous numbers and studies that have exposed how the risk and collection has become one of the most important pillars for growing organizations. And it might sound antithetical, but it is almost important. If we have robust collection and risk processes, they actually help us in the growth strategy, and that is why banks and NBFCs must pay attention to their risk and collection strategies while they are paying attention to their new business acquisitions and portfolio strategies. In the next section, what I want to talk about is what is the modern approach for taking care of the collection and risk aspects of the leading banks. And we are having here a four-pronged approach which states how you should go about risk and collection strategies from analytical point of view. So here we will talk about these four aspects. So first of it is the approach where you want to generate granular insights from wide range of KPIs that you may have, and these KPIs are spread across the customers, the products, the geographies that you may have, and many other subject areas that an organization typically has. This is unearthed by tools like Click and ClickSense dashboards, where you can associate each of these subject areas and data points that you have about your product and customers for any analysis that you want to carry for collection and risk. And we will see some of the solutions that Qlik offers when Rajiv talks about it. The second area is about microsegmenting your customers through ML practices that can be adopted today. So something like microsegmenting the customers on value at risk they can, right? So this is a very, very good approach where you can identify even before a customer becomes delinquent, say 60 days ahead of that, you are able to categorize a customer as a high risk customer and then take courses so that you can avoid some of the losses that you may incur. The third aspect is about the contact strategy that you may adopt. So if you identify through your segments that these are the high risk customers, then what is the most effective contact strategy that you can adopt to avoid some of the losses that you can have? Now, contact strategy includes some of the elements of when to contact a customer, but also includes what is the channel and what is the message you want to deliver to that customer and when do you want to do that. The fourth aspect is, and again a very critical aspect, and many organizations we see are having a focus on this particular aspect, is to improve the field force collection efficiency. In the rural setup, typically in India, we find that people when they go to collect money, they find challenging to either make the first contact or also to collect money on time when it is supposed to. There are interventions that can be made through ML technologies as well as BI technologies and mobile analytics where we can improve the efficiency of the collection agents who are on ground. Right. So this is a four-pronged approach, and we have seen multiple implementation on this have helped organizations to reap benefits from collection and risk point of view. In the next slide, what I want to talk about is just one example of micro-segmentation where we have low risk, absent-minded, dialer-based, true high touch, and unable to cure. These are just indicative segments that are created, and we have listed some of the interventions. So it ranges from wherever a customer is low risk, you can just sort of ignore it, or you can assign some low experienced agents to that and expect it to be cured automatically. While there are other segments like dialer based and true high touch where you need to be engaged with the customer a little more, you have to adopt certain strategies which are custom made for the customers, and then you can get benefits something like higher conversion or timely conversions, or you can have added focus that can address some of the risks that these particular segments are carrying. And then lastly, there is a segment called unable to cure, and typically this segment will be there where you would expect that there will be certain losses, most certainly, but you would want to in this case minimize the losses, and hence what you should do is offer some of the debt restructuring which will result in recovery of some of the debt that is outstanding, if not all, right? And this level will be acceptable and hence result into better risk mitigation for overall organization. So these are the two elements that I wanted to talk about. With this, I would hand it over to Rajiv to highlight us how ClickSense helps organizations in mitigating the risk and improving the collections. And before that, just a quick poll question which you can answer by just clicking some of the options and help us also understand what are your thoughts on some of the things that we talked about so far. This will help us curate our content going ahead. So here is the question. We will close the poll in about 30 seconds. Yeah, thanks for the responses. Over to you, Rajiv.
Thanks, Rishi. Very good afternoon to one and all. And interesting insight that you brought out, Rishi, around that 1.8 trillion projected risk. And a lot of that is attributed to China. Looks like Evergrande was apparent to S&P long before it came up. Anyways, with that said, let's move on. If you can go to the next slide, I'll just talk a little bit about who Qlik is and what is its presence in the BFSI space. Overall, we're present in more than 100 countries. We've got 50,000, touching 60,000 global customers now. Now, if I come down to the, just the BFSI sector, we have all the top 20 financial services firms in the US, EMEA. In India, we are with some of the leading finance corporations, HDFC, Bank of Baroda, Poonawalla, Fullerton. We have 15 of the top 15 banks as customers, 5 of the top 5 insurers, 10 of the top 10 capital markets players in the world. So, in essence, a lot of the large players and the medium players have put their trust on Qlik to get benefit out of it. Within Qlik, we are around 2,500 employees across the world, and with partners across the globe, again 1500 partners, one of them being Exponential, which we are collaborating with for this session. If we can move on. So what we've done, the next slide, I just want to talk about what are the capabilities that our customers that are using Qlik from a risk perspective, what are those capabilities that they highlighted to us that benefited them when they started using Qlik. So this is some survey that we did with all our NBFC and BFSI sector customers, and especially around the risk area of how they were using Qlik. And this is what we got as feedback: is that the primary thing that kind of gave them that easy to work with thing around Qlik was around risk data discovery. What that essentially means is that it allowed the business users to explore and interpret risk in a self-service mode. So sometimes this is a very complex thing, and there is a lot of complex calculation that goes underneath the scenes to bring out the risk. But then giving that capability to the end users to then explore it in a self-service manner and deriving or making their life easy on a daily basis was something that was highlighted by all of the people who are using Qlik for risk. And then the next in line came the ad hoc analysis and reporting capability, where people were able to not only see what was getting created by some analyst, but also be able to create it from their own perspective. So that came as a second most important thing. And then there were things like risk data aggregation, being able to combine data coming in from multiple sources, seeing it on a mobile, being able to get back to regulators in a much shorter turnaround time. Being able to search across the dashboard, it was just too complex for anyone to just know where a certain thing was, and the ability to search kind of eased their experience. The association, finding out relationships between various components that are there in the dashboard, being able to drill down, being able to integrate with third-party risk. Now this is more of the analytical team that creates a, let's say, a value at risk VAR model in a third-party tool. So we don't need to recreate that within Qlik. We can just integrate it with whatever risk calculation engine that you might have, and showcase that for a business user transparently. And underlying all of this was essentially the speed at which things could get done, not only from a requirement gathering perspective to the delivery of that requirement, but also the end user experience in terms of interacting with the data was something that a lot of our users highlighted. So with that, I'll hand it back to Rishi to talk a little bit more about the use cases, and then we'll jump into the demo.
Thanks, Rajiv. So in this section, we will spend a little bit of time on the popular use cases around risk analytics and how QlikSense allows you to perform all of it, on just one platform, right? So you can see all of these are very, very critical use cases from risk mitigation and management point of view. So right from your enterprise risk across the organizations, be it economic or regulatory, capital management, risk exposure analysis, or something like executive risk dashboards and scorecards that a management would want to monitor on a frequently basis. There could be, and there is always liquidity risk that, has to be managed almost at a daily level. And there are intraday liquidity snapshots and trends that you would require, your analyst team would require. All of this can come out from QlikSense dashboards. And one of, such dashboard we will show you just right after this particular, slide. Then there are use cases around counterparty risk, AML and fraud detection. Again, very important areas. And most of the times, if you look at all the data points about a one particular, say, subject area or a transaction in totality, most of the times frauds and suspicious transactions come out and are identified as anomalies. And this is what QlikSense brings to the table, because it has its own associative engine which allows you to sort of identify these data points which are anomalous in nature. It allows you to associate some of the data points with the rest of the universal data that you have across organizations, and helps you identify these trends and anomalies. Regulatory compliance, be it Basel norms, be it BCBS 239, solvency, and so on, all of these could also be sort of powered from the same Qlik capabilities, right? And likewise, we have market risk, operational risk, and credit risk, and use cases related to that, right? We can have one single dashboard for all of these, or we can have separate dashboards based on how you want to sort of organize your data and monitor it, right? We can have all of that. built just out of one platform, which is ClickSense. And this is something that we will want to demo to you right after this particular section, as I said. So moving on, I think we will have one poll question and then jump right into the demo with Rajiv, and then I will also walk you through with one of the dashboards. So a quick poll question, on the things that we discussed and how you see these things actuating in your organization. Yeah, maybe 10 more seconds and we will jump into the demo.
All right. If you can make me the presenter. Is my screen visible?
Yes, Raj, we can.
All right. So what you're seeing is a dashboard where this is about a situation. Think of it as a firm that is into the lending business, and they get an overview of their AUM, asset under management, active loans, and what is the average ticket size that they're lending out. Now, while this dashboard gives a lot of overview about various things which Rishi will walk through, but I want you to think that I am someone who is interested in understanding more about how we can improve the business from a portfolio perspective, as we see that there is some degrowth compared to the previous month in terms of both the AUM and active loans that we are there. As a head of the business, maybe I'm very keen on looking at it from a trend perspective, which gives me more insights into how things are moving over time within my organization. What I do is I can expand this chart which shows interesting trends, and I'll try and see and derive insights out of this. What I can see over time, right, this data is from 2012 to 2016 data, and of course this is sample data that we have. But from a product perspective that I do business in, over time, this blue line, which is represented by CV, has overtaken my portfolio in terms of size from the SME side of things. Now, while the portfolio is increased, I might be interested in knowing that if that CV business gives me good interest rates or not. So I can quickly switch the trend to show, instead of the loan amount, the interest rates that I'm getting on these respective businesses. So what I get to see is that I'm at a decent 16% on an average interest rate on the CV business, which is something that is much higher than what I was making earlier in my largest portfolio, which was the SME portfolio. So that gives me comfort that CV is a good business to have its size increased. I can go back to loan amount, and maybe that's where I want to focus on from a CV perspective and see how we can even maximize it even more. All right. So then I look at CV and its trend of increasing portfolio. I quickly maybe change it to the interest rate, and also then I can do things like, if I want, instead of a quarterly basis, if I want to do it on an annual basis, I can quickly switch all of that around and see how things are working out. And what this gives me a view is that this year there has been slight decrease in the interest rate, which I can figure out later. But let's switch back to the quarterly view and then understand that for CV business, and this, how do I know that I'm looking at CV? Whatever I select gets highlighted on the top. Right? So for CV, let's say I want to look at if there is difference in the interest rate of the gender that I'm lending out to. We've got male, female, and then some data quality issues, which I can easily see here, that there is male and all caps male. So this is something that I've made a mental note of, which I'll get it corrected. But broadly, I can see that they fall in the same interest range bucket. So this is not of interest to me. Maybe then I would rather look at my overall portfolio, right, which is essentially loan amount, and then look at things where I can focus on the higher interest range products or areas, right? So if I see my overall portfolio for CV, the portfolio that I have right now is in that interest range of 16 to 16.5. That's where my maximum loans are going out to. But sometime before, I was doing higher portfolio of greater than 17%. So that piqued my interest. We went down on that business sometime, and if I just select that greater than 17% business, So if I look at that, we peaked at this time around 2014, but over the last 2 years, it went down significantly, and now we seem to be picking up again. Maybe I want to get deeper into this. So again, greater than 17 is selected on the top, and I want to understand this even further, right? So let's look at product variants that gave me greater than 17% and what contributed to the decline. While I see this purple line, which is ME plus, right? That's been significantly or slowly increasing. But what led to that up and down graph, which we saw earlier in terms of the trend, was essentially this ME standard program, which is this blue line. So now I can select this, let's say, ME standard program, and I would rather now want to collaborate with another colleague of mine to understand why we are not able to do as much business in this ME standard as we were able to do earlier. So that's where what I can do is open up this note and create a new note. In this, essentially what I'm going to do is understand how can we bring back the ME business back. All right, how can we bring back the ME business? And this is something that I know that a colleague of mine would how can we improve this? Right, this works. And instead of sharing, what I can do is add a snapshot to the node. So what this is essentially doing is I've noticed something that is of interest to me, and I'm then trying to collaborate with another colleague of mine. So Rishi also has access to this app, and what I can then do is tag him and then say, can you look into this, right? Something like this. What then happens is that Rishi gets a notification. What I can also do is allow Rishi to give him edit rights so that he can also comment back into this. So what this has done now is that it has notified Rishi that someone has included you in their conversation and made a note. And now you see Rishi has looked at it. So Rishi is on the other system, on his system, and he started typing out a response or something like, Rishi, if you can type out something, maybe I'll look into it later, something which will then, so essentially it's allowing us to collaborate. I'll just remove this note. Now, continuing with the analysis that I was doing, let's say I know that I want to deep dive further into this, and I want to look at, I know that Delhi is a significant contributor to my business, but the person who's created the dashboard hasn't really provided me any filters to select on. Not to worry, in Qlik we have this search where we can just search for Delhi, and anywhere the word Delhi exists, so if I go back, anywhere the words DE exists, it will keep getting highlighted. It's like a Google search for the data that you brought in. And then I can see under location Delhi, again I did not need to have a filter created for me. What I did was search, and it's added that to the selections that are all the way as analyzing, and Delhi reflects the same trend for this ME standard program that we were trying to kind of revive, right? At this point, I maybe want to look at the customers in Delhi whom we have ever loaned or given this standard program or this product to. Now, again, the creator of this dashboard hasn't given me that customer-wise list out of all the products that we've listed out. But again, you can go to this discovery tab where it allows this end user to then pick out fields that they're interested in. So I'm interested in, let's say, customer name. I can just select customer name, and then I want to look at, let's say their AUM, for example. What this does is on the fly, it is generating the AUM by customer name, but in context of what I was analyzing earlier. So Delhi ME standard program greater than 17 for the loan type CV. And then it's given me, all the customers and the AUM who fall under those selections, and I can do again a top 10 customers whom I might want to reach out again given that we've not seen them borrow this product or create a campaign around these 10, 15, 20 customers. Right? So essentially what I'm trying to highlight is that we went from a very large overview of how the business was doing. We focused on a product that we assumed was doing well. Within that, we went to the high interest products, which is of interest to us, something that we would rather want to push. And we then saw a declining business in that sub segment of the product, which we thought was actually doing well. And then we were able to identify on a particular product and also a few customers that we could focus on. So in very quick time, it allowed me as a business user to create some actionables for me, which I was also then able to share with my colleague to kind of discuss and collaborate about. One last thing before I kind of leave it. When I searched for Delhi, it highlighted this, but if you see there is a color code location. So if I expand this, what this is telling me is that this ME-standard program, which is of greater than 17% interest rate, of loan type CV, have been doing business for this in all these cities which are in light grey. But what's more interesting is that I have not done any business around this in these dark grey cities. So that could be again another area that I would want to look into to understand why we are not able to operate on this product in these cities. Maybe that is an opportunity loss which you would want to cover going forward, thereby increasing our AUM and active loans even further. So that was my short little demo on how we can go from a really top level view to arrive at some actionables which can help in improving the business. Hand it over back to you, Rishi. And if you can, now Rishi will walk us through the same dashboard, but with a different objective. Over to you, Rishi.
Sure, Raju. Thanks for that. And this is again, I hope my screen is visible. This is again a similar dashboard that Raju, same dashboard in fact, that Raju was talking about, but I will present a story which is, a little different than what Raju mentioned, and that's the beauty of it, because every stakeholder in the organization would want to sort of analyze the numbers from their point of view and perspective in the area that they are managing and contributing to, and that is where the ClickSense allows all the users to perform analysis which is suitable for them. Right? So you can see the numbers, again same numbers. I will just walk you through some of the charts that we have here and what they mean. So this is again one chart which tells you about if you have two different businesses, say housing finance and non-housing finance, it will tell you what is the contribution by each of the business. You can select it, and again the whole of the dashboard will change for that particular selection, something that Raju already told us. You can have high level numbers here, and you can have comparison and color coding across those numbers to understand the trend, whether we are improving or not. Then you can have this graph, and here let me just take you through one of the examples similar to what Raju was mentioning. And if we look at the loan amount or the disbursements that we have done for the three products that we have in our portfolio, the composition is changing. If you say from this point onwards, Q1 of FY15, this point onwards, the product which was contributing the most in our portfolio, SME, has now gone to the second level, and the product which started in FY12 Q4 has now moved on to the top, right? And this contributes to almost double the SME as of this particular quarter. If you look at overall, the composition of the product portfolio looks like this. SME is still our largest product, however CV is showing the highest growth. Now if we were to analyze as a top management person, if this is the way our portfolio has changed, what does it mean for my business? Is it improving? Is it helping me do better business, or it is not, right? So I can just select CV and all the numbers will change for that. However, we have designed this dashboard in a manner where you don't even have to do any selection and will still be able to identify all these insights. So if I just go down, we have charts on what is the total principal outstanding by ticket size, and we can see the stack by products. So we know that CV is the major contributor now, and we see that CV is contributing the most in these particular three ticket sizes, which is less than 3.5 lakhs, right? So CV is predominantly a product which is less than 3.5 lakhs. If we look at the loan tenure, we see that CV is actually predominantly a long-term product. Now this raises a question because it's a small ticket size, yet it is a high loan, high tenure product. Then essentially we should have a very high interest rate on this particular product, and that is what we also sort of come to know, that if you look at these buckets, so 16 and onwards is the comparatively and relatively the bucket which is dominant when we talk about CV as a product. So 32% overall is 16 to 16.5, and much of it is contributed by the CV as a product. This as a portfolio manager will sort of satisfy me, because this is where we are sort of making the money, even though the product is small ticket size and higher tenure. We can go down and also look at some of the performance by the branches. Here we can readily identify which are the branches which are performing the most and are top performing for me. If we look at, say, till Vijayawada, you will come to know that, and this percentage is denoting what is the contribution by each of the branch in my overall portfolio. If you look at this, you will come to know that about top 5-6 branches are contributing more than 80% of my business, and typically that is how it happens, right? So we know 80-20 rule. So that is how this particular fictitious bank is also performing. Small number of banks or branches are giving the maximum business, and they would want to analyze further if there is a risk to these particular branches, my overall business might suffer, and hence the portfolio mix of these branches is also very, very important, right? So here we see that the top 5 branches are contributing most from the SME type of product, right? And this is understandable because most of these cities are industrial. However, rest of the cities which are contributing smaller amounts, however, their CV contribution, which is our most growing product, is contributing the highest, right? So that is one of the insights that we get. And other thing that we can also look at is how these branches are performing over a period of time, which is what you see on the x-axis, and how are they comparing with each other. So here very easily you can make out from the size of the bubble that Delhi is one of the highest contributing branch, right? And its growth has also been steady. It has been growing over a period of time consistently. Now there are some of the other branches which are either not grown, something like Ludhiana here, right? So you see small bubbles all the way. Even there are some branches which have shrunk in between, something like Mumbai, which started strong but shrunk in between and then grew again, right? So you can see the patterns and trends, compare it with each other and so on through such easy and intuitive visualization. Now Rajiv already showed us that these are all interactive visualizations. All the dashboard that I am showing here, will change for any selection I do here, right? So this complete flexibility and analytical ability is provided to the business user to perform the business discovery that is of interest to them, right? Now this is one of the sort of subject area that I wanted to evaluate. If say now you want to look at the risk that the bank is carrying, right? So you can again go to the next sheet on this particular dashboard where we have some of the risk parameters and indicators highlighted, something like portfolio at risk, non-performing assets, days past due, and overall portfolio in that, and so on. You can again analyze the numbers. Here you can see very insightful chart where we are showing on the x-axis the number of the months, and on the y-axis on the y-axis we have the months, and x-axis we have the amounts, right? So there are two amounts that we are talking about. The line is showing what is the POS or principal outstanding for each of the months, and the bars are showing what is the days past due 90 plus bucket, right? Now essentially 90 plus bucket will mean that these are the amounts which are at risk, right? And we see overall trend of principal outstanding that it is started declining from February or June 2016 onwards, and it has reached to almost the same level as it was in August 15. And because of this, probably there is also a risk and as in a reason for this might well be DPD 90 plus and percentage increase in that bucket, right? So we see that this has been constantly growing, 0.8 in 2015 August to 2.5 in September of 16. So it has grown almost 3 times. And that is why probably the bank has gone sort of slow on giving out loans maybe, and that is why it has shrunk the portfolio. Now if we look at this particular graph, here we see product wise what is the contribution of DPD 90 plus, right? And here we see SCV is the product. In the previous sheet you might have seen that SCV is actually the smallest contributor in our portfolio. Now if we look at SCV, this number is 2.5. Once selected, the overall portfolio for SCV is actually at 5.6. So the smallest contributor in our portfolio is actually contributing the maximum in our DPD 90 plus. Now that's an insight that we can carry out and then further analyze. So if that is the case, which are the branches sort of contributing to that decline? So here we see Mumbai is one of the branch highlighted in red, right? It has very high principal outstanding for the current month and very high days past due as well. There are other branches which might turn red very soon. Those are highlighted in yellow, something like Hyderabad. And then there are a bunch of branches which are currently in green but may turn very soon into yellow or green categories, and hence we should closely look at them, right? So that is again one of the insights. Now I just want to highlight some of the other features here itself. So on a right click, you get a bunch of features in ClickSense. Something like if you want to identify this, right, and share it with a colleague, as Raju had shared with me earlier, right, I can also do the sharing in the chat. What I can also do is take a snapshot of this, right, and put it in my library, and then later share a full-fledged presentation with the top management or CXOs, right, for their quarterly review, right? So that is again one of the use cases that we can derive out of it, and I will show how it happens in the storytelling, right? So I just took a snapshot because I did this analysis. I found out an insight that Mumbai is the branch which we need to watch out for. Hyderabad is close second. Again, we need to watch out for, and I will want to sort of pass on that information to my seniors, right? If this is the case that we have identified for SCV, right, let us also look at what is our sort of securitization for this particular type of product, right? So are we securing our loans? So LTV, loan to value, is again very important indicator here, and we see that most of the portfolio in LTV is secured above 80%, right? So 80 to 90 is the predominant buckets. However, there are certain other buckets as well where we have quite a few loans. So about 300 loans in or 250 loans in this particular lower buckets are also there, and probably we should look at which are the branches who are giving these loans, or which are the branch managers who have given these loans, and so on, right? So that analysis is also possible. You just need to sort of select this and do the analysis further. The other thing that I might be interested in is what is my NPA levels, right? So overall, what is my NPA levels? And I would also want to sort of do a vintage analysis. After how many months on board do my customers go bad, right? Here again, it's a very, very interesting chart. On the x-axis, we have months on board. On y-axis, we have DPD percentage. And we see that 8.3 is the average NPA for SCV. If you look at the overall portfolio, right, I can just do an alternate selection here. The two products apart from SCV, CV and SME, will show me a lower NPA level. So overall NPA level is at 4%. For the other two products, it is 4.22. However, for SCV, we just saw it was about 8%, right? So that's again a telling insight that SCV is the product which is contributing to maximum of our risk and collection problems, right? Similarly, we can also do a forward flow analysis. Now, forward flow, as you might all know, is a very, very important analysis, which tells us how many of customers are moving from one bucket to another in subsequent quarters or months. And here again, the same trend is observed. 0 to 30 is 10% and about there. But this particular bucket, 30 to 60, is growing, quite substantially in June. It has decreased, but not as much as it was in March levels. And this analysis again is a very, very insightful analysis, and risk managers would sort of love to delve deeper into these numbers, right? Then another piece of information and insight that we can derive out of this is, if SCV are the loans that are of that are not performing well, what are the interest rate we are charging on them, right? So this is the analysis on that. So greater than 17% is the highest bucket that we are charging. We can also identify, as I had said, who have sanctioned these loans, right? And here we see that most of the loans were sanctioned by branch managers, right? And vis-a-vis the other category, these are the loans which are performing very poorly, right? So we can look at who the branch managers are. We can also sort of take certain actions, discuss with them what processes they are following, are they not adhering to the norms we have set, and so on, right? Then we have collateral authority. right? So again, for SCV, we can do this analysis by collateral type. What is the DPT 90 plus for the collateral type that we have for SCV product? Now SCV, which is actually small commercial vehicles, and hence there is only one collateral that we have taken, and we had already seen the levels of collateral in this particular chart, where LTVs are above 80% most of the times, right? If we want to do that analysis that we were talking about, who are giving out these loans in the smaller LTV values, we can again check this particular graph, and we will know that branch managers are again the people who have given these low loan to value at a lower rates and loans for those lower loan to value rates, right? So this is one chart that this is one dashboard that I wanted to show, apart from what Rajiv had already shown us. And there are a bunch of features, as I was telling, in the storytelling. You can just whatever snapshots you take, you can just create a story out of it. You can build a PowerPoint presentation like interface here, and then share it with any of the colleagues or seniors that you have, and show them that you have identified these insights. This is what it means, and you can discuss in the meetings that you might have with them. Yeah. So in a nutshell, this is what we wanted to show you on the ClickSense dashboard. This is the ClickSense interface that we just saw, and this is how it helps you analyze any of the subject areas that you may want to analyze on risk and collection and otherwise as well. So with this, I wrap up this particular demo, and we will move on to the other demo just immediately afterwards. So I hope you are able to see the screen presented by Ravi. Now here what we are showing is, if we have identified certain customers, certain things from our portfolio analysis, we would want to do a further deep dive analysis on, say, what are the early warnings that we can have about the customers who might turn delinquent, right? So this particular analysis, we have already trained a machine learning model. On this, what we are now trying to do is say feed a data for the collection of the next month for all the customers who are due to pay, right? So here we will just upload a file in a matter of few seconds. It will give us an insight on what is the risk score of all the customers who are due for collection next month. So you can see in this particular table, towards the right hand side, there is a column called as risk category, and there is a column called as risk score, right? And you can see there are three buckets here: high risk, medium risk, and low risk. And then there is a risk score associated with, right? Now, how is this useful? This is useful as say a zonal manager or a branch manager. You can just look at all the customers who are at high risk of delinquency, download this particular data and forward it to either the branch managers who are responsible to collect money from these, or the collection agents who are responsible to collect money from them. Have meetings with those people and devise strategies to avert any collection challenges that you may face, right? So if this is the input, I would like to sort of know more about this, and you can just click this particular checkbox, explore the data that was generated, and here you can go deeper into it. You can find it out by branch, you can find it out by zones, you can find it out by, as I said, agents, right? You can give name of one particular branch and find out customers who might turn delinquent for that particular branch, right? So this is all things are available on just a simple platform that we built for you, which is having a machine learning model in the backend, and this is a simple UI. Of course, the UI can be customized, but from capability point of view, it will empower all those users who want to find out early warnings about the customers they are dealing with in terms of the collections and how they might turn delinquent, right? So this is just one of the other thing that we wanted to demo. Very, very powerful. We can sort of spend a lot of time on this, but because of paucity, we will not spend a lot of time on this. We will move to the other section that we have very quickly, which is on value at risk. And you might all be knowing that value at risk is one of the most important simulations that we run for risk management, right? So the last machine learning model that we saw was built for identifying customers who might be at risk. However, that was just for one customer or a set of customers across branches, across products. Now, ideally, how we would want to manage risk is simulate all the scenarios that may occur in a practical, scenario. So, if we take into consideration all the macroeconomic factors, all liquidity factors, interest rate changes, and so on and so forth, what will happen is we will be able to come to know what is the ability, willingness, as well as some of the other independent aspects which affect the collection and risk and its impact on the actual numbers that we are able to collect, right? So in this graph that you see, every line is representing one scenario, and it is also representing what is the return that you would get or the collection that you would be able to make in that particular scenario. And because there are thousands and lakhs of scenarios, this is the sort of collection of all those scenarios put together, right? Now, ideally, how value at risk happens, we would want to now, plot a graph, which is a histogram of all the frequencies that we might have across all the scenarios that we simulated. And this is showing us the density of, what we have plotted and the return that we might get, right? So here, the value at risk with 95%, probability, we can say that our overall portfolio is, 9.8% of it is at risk, right? So this is just a sort of, you all know, this is how it is done. The thing that we want to highlight is that behind this, there is a whole process of data engineering, putting the right data at the right places, then building the model, then, showing you all of these, graphs and doing all of those calculations. And not just that, also maintaining these models, because there will be multiple models and hundreds of models for, each of the products and variations that you may have, that need to be built and back tested for arriving at the accurate value at risk, right? So for that, you need 2-3 things at least, which is one, the data engineering and strong data, transformation capability. 2, very strong compute power to sort of calculate enterprise-wide value at risk. And third, an easy and useful platform which can be accessed by, the data engineers and data scientists that you may have in your organization. So one such platform that we are showing here is Databricks, and this is whatever you are seeing on the screen is built on Databricks, which is again one of our partners, and we have done value at risk on the Databricks platform for management of risk in this case. Okay, so this is just a small sort of demo that we wanted to give you on value at risk. Of course, there are greater details to how this is calculated, and we can discuss them if you are interested outside of this session as well. Okay. So with this, I would want to sort of hand it back to Vivek to sort of close the session and give his closing comments, and after that we will move to the question and answers.
Well, thank you so much, Rishi. Overall, what an insightful session it was. Definitely food for thought for your weekend. So to encapsulate today's discussion, what we learned today is why collection and risk should be the top priority for you and your organization, and what is the modern approach to circumvent this risk. We also learned, how platforms like Qlik is becoming more and more relevant as a weapon to mitigate these risks and challenges. We also gave you the glimpses of the use cases related to risk and collection, which you can have as a roadmap for your organization. And also we saw some of them in action too. And we also saw, which leading NBFCs have adopted these use cases and Qlik as a platform. So please get in touch with us if you feel, we can add value to your data to decision journey for your organization. We will be glad to partner with you in this journey. Thank you so much for taking time out on this Friday afternoon. We will be in touch. You all have a great weekend. But before that, if you have any question, please type that in the dialog box. We will be happy to, take those questions. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
So Rishikesh, we have a question. How did you categorize branches as per their risk? While you were giving the demo, so during that.
So how did we categorize branches as per their risk? Okay. So there are multiple ways. One is, you identify the number of customers who are associated with those branches, and then identify certain numbers, something like days past due, something like, what is the portfolio at risk because of days past due. Then you can also look at some of the trends, which is, forward flow and static flow vintage analysis that we do. So based on that, in Qlik Sense itself, you can identify some of those branches, and something that I was showing on a scatter plot where, Mumbai and Delhi where the two branches which were coming as high risk. So that is one way that you can do identify from these metrics. Another way is on machine learning. So by using machine learning, you can identify branches which might turn delinquent and high risk branches in the near future. Now that is again based on some of the customers and their data. When we analyze their ability to repay the loans, their ability to repay and how it changes because of certain factors like say macroeconomic indicators, their credit worthiness, their credit history with other branches based on the data that we get from bureaus and so on and so forth. So all of these independent variables become the predictors for understanding what will be the delinquencies at a given branch, and based on that we can identify which are the branches which might turn red very soon. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
The next question we have is, what is the name of the platform you showed for the risk dashboard?
Okay, so that's ClickSense. The dashboard that we were showing, that's ClickSense. And yeah, so Raju, if you want to talk about any of the features again, maybe.
No, that's fine. It was just ClickSense where we gave the entire interactive experience. And if there is a follow-up session, we can definitely do a dedicated session.
Okay, the next question we have is, do you have any solution for field force efficiency improvement?
What was the question? Say that again, please.
So field force efficiency, is that right, Rashida?
Yes, Rishikesh.
There are solutions for that, and we have implemented for one of our customers that was getting the collection efficiency up for the field force. That was done by GeoAnalytics, which is again Qlik's value-added product. We integrated this with one of the handheld devices that the bank had given to the collection agents, and it identified which of the places the collection agents have to travel every day, and what is the route they should trace, what is the amount they should collect, and so on and so. So all of this enablement was done through a handheld device, through Qlik GeoAnalytics and some of the machine learning algorithms that we built. There is another platform that Exponentia is building, the Nudge platform, which again is geared towards enablement of feet on street kind of use cases, and collection is one of those use cases. So we'll be happy to demo if you are interested on the both GeoAnalytics as well as Nudge's platform.
So we have a follow-up question to our previous question. All this reporting seems good. However, can we use it on real-time basis by onboarding a customer? For example, we will get to know its risk from EML perspective well before onboarding the customer.
So let me take a answer.
Sure, Raju.
So what we've seen a few of our customers do is that they have a way to send the data in real time as soon as the customer walks into a branch. They have a way to or if they have a database of the profile of or the kind of let's say a demographic of that kind of a customer that has walked in, and what would be the risk profile of such a demographic customer, then they kind of get that analysis back in real time. So we've had customers use that for those kind of use cases, but for that individual, if there is no data in the underlying system, there is no way to predict a risk. It will only generate data over time before you can even talk about risk of that individual. But taking the demographic into account, there have been use cases which our customers have used.
We have one more question. So the question is, how do we identify customer risk banding 60 days prior to delinquency bucket?
You want to take that, Rishi?
Right. So, as I said, there are numerous variables that go into predicting the outcome, right? And this will depend on the business that we are having, the product portfolio that we are having, the setup. Is it a rural setup? Is it an urban setup? And so on and so forth. There are numerous variables that go into a predictive model for identifying delinquencies, right? And at a customer level, again, we identify who are the customers at risk based on these, independent variables. There are then certain rules that we can identify. There are certain associations and patterns that we can identify based on geolocations, vicinity of a kind of sort of persona of people, their pin codes, right, and so on and so forth. So there are numerous, as in it would not be sort of justice to identify all the attributes at this very moment, but majorly how we bucket it is customer demographics, customer transaction history, customer history with other banks, basis the data from the bureaus, geolocations and pin code based data, and some of these things sort of when tied together gives us a fair picture of how a delinquency might look like, say 60 days or 30 days in advance. So the approach we follow is first we do an exploration based on whatever is the objective problem statement and the data available, and then we identify what will be the significant factors which will influence the predictor of interest, in this case delinquency. So there is no one short answer. It will have to be sort of explored and identified.
Okay, so this will be the last question for the day. Someone would like to know what kind of services or solutions does Engagely provide for this kind of AI ML analytics?
Okay, so Engagely is a platform, so it can be used by the sales agents, and it can be used by the internal employees. So it can be used for multiple use cases. So it can be used for real-time application processing. The customers can know, the bank can know which customer can be onboarded. It's a very low-risk customer, and the application processing can be done very fast through this platform, and in very less time the applications can be processed and the loans can be disbursed. So these kind of use cases can be enabled. So this is on the customer acquisition perspective. Well, there are some other use cases on the customer servicing side that can be done through the Engagely.ai platform. So the customers can be engaged through WhatsApp bot, in which whatever queries their customers are having or whatever document the customer need, that can be processed through a WhatsApp bot. So these are some of the things that we can achieve through Engagely.ai platform.
Thanks, Vivek. So now we'll be closing the discussion. Thank you for all your questions. If you would like to discuss any of the topics discussed today in detail, please feel free to reach out to us anytime through our website, LinkedIn page, or email us at engage@exponential.in. Thank you all for joining us today. Have a good day.
Thank you.